itself, there's two things you're going to have to do to help you run that tutorial. So you're going to have to do the week before the tutorial, just give out a half-page slip of paper, and also it's on the web page and also on the notice board in case someone misses the tutorial. But what you have to devise an effective way to run the class. So if you look at next week's tutorial and the week after, I have devised a way to run those classes, and that's all on the web page. After that week, from the fourth week onwards, you guys are running those classes, so you need to have an effective guide. Again, there's criteria about what makes an effective guide. And finally, the two of you, so I might be running the class with Sarah, and we will sit down together and decide how to do it. We have a secret plan of action on how to run the class. So that's about 90 minutes we expect you to run the class. So you might have 3 or 4 outrageous quotes you might throw in at times if things are getting quiet, just to get people all excited, and they could be quite provocative. You might split the class into half and then quarters and do different activities. So the secret plan of action is your plan on how to run the class, and you need to share that with the tutor. We'll be there and give you some feedback if she thinks the whole thing's going to fall over, but she'll also be assessing it. So any questions now about the facilitation process? As I said, the best way to find out is to go through all the resources on the web page. Then we'll give you a choice of developing an essay or web page based around the topic discussed in the tutorial. So we'll focus in this course on the tutorials. In the super tutorial, the group of 8 or 10 students will decide what is the question you're going to have to answer on the web page or in the essay. So there's a tutorial, the first one is on public participation. So the question might be, what are the keys to making public participation effective in environmental policy and planning? You as a group in the super tutorial have to decide what that question is, and then you have the option, anyone in this class can answer any question, but every 2 weeks these papers are due sequentially. So exactly 2 weeks after the topic is discussed in the tutorial, you can submit a paper or a web page on that topic. Okay, so if you get sick, if you're going to the Olympics or a training camp and you can't do a particular topic, you can't do it later, you just have to do a different topic. Okay, so I think it's the fairest system, and it avoids endless approaches and people saying, I'm busy because of work, or I have to go away. So any questions about the essay page?
How long is the essay?
It's found on the web page. I think it's 2,500 words from memory.
Oh, but it's all I see.
If you turn to the back of your handouts, I think the web page is there. No, sorry, it's not. It is on the next link down to 700 words. Remember, it's 2.5. So it's not a huge, it's an exercise in concise writing. It's not an exercise in huge long things. I should have said the briefing paper I think has an 800 word limit. So it's very short, precise. So if you're working in public service, often you're told to get everything on 1 page. Okay, so we're actually giving you 2 pages. So if you want 800 words, it's about 2 pages. And that's an exercise in very precise writing. The essay is not a huge 5,000 word essay either. It's an exercise in being concise. You have the choice, as I said, of doing an essay or a web page. If you do a web page, obviously you still have to answer the question. I'd still expect as much content and thought as you put into an essay. I'd still expect references somewhere, and I'd obviously also expect you to use that technology. There's no point doing a web page if it's just one link with 2,500 words. So one of the assessment items, criteria, if you do a web page, is effectively using links and so forth. And then the last thing is a learning portfolio. Again, you can go to the web page and explore what's expected of that. But one thing that we're asking you to do is to come to tutorials prepared. So the major item in the learning portfolio is something that we're doing already. So you can't come to tutorials if there's not any evidence of you having done the reading or the thinking that your classmates have said, and then you bundle that together in the course as part of the learning portfolio. Also expect you in the learning portfolio to go to 2 relevant seminars and talks. So this course doesn't have a huge face-to-face contact in terms of just the 2 hours a week of the lecture, but there are, every week on this campus, there are talks, seminars in the evenings, lunchtimes that are relevant to this can't get to any of those, you could do a National Press Club presentation, which is on the TV. But do try to get to some of the things that are here. I'll be constantly sending people emails about that. And again, your webpage has a list of relevant seminars. And the other compulsory thing in that is a requirement to be paying attention during your peers' briefing papers and to think about which is the most likely to be effective and to reflect on that. And with people's permission, we'll do what we did last year, which is maybe pick 3 or 4 of the really outstanding briefing papers and ask them to come back and do it in this forum for the whole class to do as well. So if there's 3 or 4 briefing papers in the last lecture given by your peers, again, I'd like you to think about what made them effective presentation verbally and also in terms of the capacity of those things to be implemented. So any questions about the learning portfolio? Again, I realise some of you have probably never done one, but don't panic, there's about 50 examples on my webpage from previous years of good ones. That's quite a good way to explore the course content. Sort of doing backwards is seeing what other people got out of the course. You can also, in this course, you can go forward and look at the PowerPoint presentations from last year, which are still on the web each week. You should go down. So you can go forward. And it's particularly relevant for the people facilitating the tutorial topics. So the lectures try to build around the same time as the tutorial. But obviously, we haven't given the one on regional planning. We don't do it until towards the end of the course. But my PowerPoint from last year is already up there. The only thing you have to remember is if you go forward into the course, into the future, into the lectures we haven't given, they haven't been updated. So I've updated last night one that's on the webpage for today. So the material for this lecture is up to date and reflects this year. But if you delve further down in the course, you'll see some of the facts perhaps are wrong in terms of saying when things are going to occur. Does that all make sense? We could strip everything off the webpage until the day it's given, but that seems to be silly. So every year people said they really enjoyed going forward in the course, particularly in terms of the topics that you're going to facilitate. So you can actually start to see what sort of support material in the lectures will be there. Yeah.
Or will you expect it to actually come to the first tutorial and stuff?
I'll finish with the last slide of saying what you need to do for the first tutorial, and it's also pretty. So we have about a dozen graduate students, and your assessment is closely related, but it has one extra piece on assessment at the end there. It's got the same mistake that Elizabeth noted, that's 10%. So that's the reading paper is 20, 10 and 10. So the extra thing is this seminar here, which is going on the Tuesday night after Easter, which remember I think is March 25th. So only 4 weeks, about 4 weeks away. What we're asking you to do is to reflect on an example of environmental policy and planning that works, that's effective. And we want you to give some analysis on why it works. And we want you to be listening to your peers to assess what aspects of that policy might be implementable in other contexts, in other settings. Okay, so most of you have come from overseas, so you can talk about your own country. If you're from Australia, make sure you define it a bit narrowly in terms of all Australian environmental policies for a particular sector. Again, there's lots of examples on the webpage. So each year, with the students' permission, I'll put those PowerPoints up. So if you're interested in environmental policy around the world, there's about 80 presentations from previous students for that. The other thing we'll do that evening is to have some kind of cross-cultural feast at the end of the night. So Peter will supply the Australian liquid that we'll drink afterwards. I'll supply lots of rice, and then we'll continue to organise to each bring some plate of food and we'll have a feed. The undergraduates are most welcome to come to that evening. Obviously, you need to bring a plate of food as well. And if there's any honours pathway option students here, come and see me, and you're most welcome to participate in that graduate stream. Neil is going to speak in the next half is here, so I'll whip through a bit of the things that you can. As I said, you can read them, they're on the web page. It is just an email from a previous student saying that briefing paper exercise was a real-world thing that she had to put into place. One of our briefing papers actually, about 4 or 5 years ago, on plastic bags and levies was picked up by one political party